Welcome to LDS Unmarried Life, a podcast for single members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints who find themselves that way either because they're divorced, widowed, or not yet married. There is no affiliation with the church. And if you're on YouTube, you can see that we are recording this on video as well as audio. I'm planning to do that from now on just to see how it goes because I have people that are on YouTube that don't listen to podcasts and podcasters that don't listen to YouTube, so I'm trying to catch both audiences. And speaking of which, you can find this podcast on AnnetteTalks.com, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and of course, YouTube. And if you would like to support me, please go to patreon.com/AnnetteTalks. And I have a book also, which I forgot to bring down here, but it's called Dating After Divorce, an LDS Survival Guide. And you can find that on AnnetteTalks.com or Amazon.com. And it's all a little different today with the mics and everything, so it's gonna feel awkward.
A new adventure.
But we're gonna do this. So today we are going to be talking about the 5 love languages, and I actually have a book here that I found at the library. Camera's way there, and over there. I have 2 cameras. This one's actually for singles, a singles edition, which I didn't even know existed until I went to the library. But before we get into the topic, one other thing I was asked by one of the local people here to please, if you're local, go to some of the singles events that are happening around town, and you can go to denverldssingles.org to find the calendar with all the activities. Also, there's a bunch of Facebook groups, so you can find me on Facebook, AnnetteTalks.com, or my personal page, Annette Bachelor Bybee, and I can tell you what Facebook groups exist for local activities. And also, if you're a regular listener, you should know that I'm planning to slowly phase out the podcast because I'm going to be starting up a second podcast. I'll still do some talking about being single, but that's not going to be my main focus. So if you have an idea that you want me to talk about, go ahead and email me at annettetalks.com, or again, find me on AnnetteTalks.com or Facebook or YouTube or wherever, and let me know what your ideas are. All right, so before we get into the topic, I want to introduce us all. We're going to introduce ourselves, I should say. My name is Annette Bybee. I am turning 51 on Tuesday, which is kind of an anticlimactic birthday. I feel like I'm like heading down the hill now. I'm not going anywhere good anymore. But I've been divorced for 4 years. I have 3 daughters, ages 11, 10, and 8. I love dark chocolate and murder mysteries, except ones where they don't tell you who did it. I watched one last night and they never resolved it. It was a true story, but I was so irritated that I didn't know. All right, Chris.
I'm Chris Freeman from Colorado Springs. I'm 38. I've been divorced about a year and a half. I have 2 sons, 10 and 7.
Awesome. And we have a newbie. I'm so excited.
I'm Johanna Wood. I have been widowed for 5 years. I'm 51 this year.
All right.
That's right. I have 3 kids. The oldest is 25, and then 19 and 18.
Okay, yours are grown.
Yes, mine are grown. I'm an official empty nester as of 4 weeks ago when my daughter moved out.
Good, bad, and different?
I'm liking it, actually.
Yes. I know a lot of people have difficulty when their last leaves the nest.
Yeah, I'm just enjoying. Well, I haven't done anything with singles because I've had kids to take care of, so I'm hoping to maybe be a little more social.
Yeah,
so.
I'm going to encourage it. If you want to go to denverldssingles.org.
I have been on there. I do check there very often. I just don't go to things very often.
Well, the barn dance is coming up. You said you went last year?
I did go last year.
Was it not a great time? Or was
it fun?
Yeah, okay. I love it. I've been twice.
Yeah.
And I've always had a great time. It's coming up again on the 21st, I believe. So if you're local, go to denverldssingles.org there. I think I said enough times now.
Yes, I think so.
And find the barn dance. But I love it because, you get to dance the whole time if you want to. Just find your square and they tell you what to do. They call out the steps. So it's not like, you can't say, I don't know what to do.
Right. I just didn't know very many people. So I think that was not so much fun because I didn't know people to talk to. So.
Well, if you go this year, you'll know at least one person.
That's right.
Are you going, Chris?
Doubtful.
Do you know
It's
what a
Yeah.
square dance?
Square or any other shape. Not
Oh,
my
that's right.
forte.
We
So
covered this
we
last
did
time,
it.
huh? You're not a dancer.
Yeah, not so much.
It's gonna be fun. All right, so on the topic, love languages. And as I was saying before we started filming and recording, at first when I thought of this topic, I was like, you always hear this, like people, as soon as became single again, that was one of the first questions someone would ask me online is, so what's your love language? And I'm like, what? I don't remember that being a big deal. Maybe it's a recent thing, but and so I didn't really pay much attention to it. I think I kind of decided what it was a long time ago, but then forgot, and then it changed. And so then I picked up the book at the library, and like, it's awesome. I mean, not only is it great in the relationship, but for your kids, coworkers, friends, relatives. I think it makes a huge difference when you figure out someone's love language and you're willing to speak it to them, that your relationship can really improve. Like I made my girls take the test for family home evening a few days ago, and I was like, "Ah, I should have seen that. It totally made sense. And so now I'm making a big effort to speak their language to them because
Right.
we all need it.
Yeah.
And I looked at all the languages, and the hard part for me was like I love them all. I mean, who doesn't
Yes,
want?
please just do all of them for me.
So yeah, let me just list them all for people that don't know. All right, there's physical touch, words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service, and gifts. And so, I mean, who doesn't like any of those things, right? We all like those because they all say, I'm giving you attention,
Right.
you know? And so for me, it was hard narrowing it down because I always thought it was one thing. And then I'm in a relationship right now, and his is clearly physical touch. Like, I think most guys I've met, that's like number one or number two. And I didn't think physical touch was my thing at all until I started dating him. And I'm like, I love this. Like, he's always holding my hand or he's got his arm around me. And I'm like, this is great. And so I thought maybe that's it. But anyway, I did the test, and I had two or three that were the top, but the tippity top for me is quality time, which had subsets that I didn't realize because I like spending time with people, but one of the subsets is conversation. And so good conversation for me, and even if you want to get to the real tip top, it's fun riffing back and forth conversation,
Right.
which I should have known because my sister and she's 10 years younger than I am, but whenever we get together, we're like a house on fire. It's just crazy because we just go back and forth, and it's like the best ever.
Yeah.
And so if I can find someone that does that with me, they're in like Flynn. And so that's my top. And then the other ones are great. I mean, it's good that you can speak all the love languages because then you can get fed by whoever's, speaking
Right.
to you. But if you can find your top and then in a romantic relationship, find someone that speaks that very well, I think that's huge.
Yeah.
So, what are you guys? Let's start with Chris. What's your top?
So my top one's probably also physical touch, and then quality time would be the other one. Um, and so I didn't really learn that until like a year before. Well, I had an idea, but I didn't like have the label for it or anything until about a year before my divorce. And by that time, my ex-wife and I were at a point where like she would get physically like anxious anytime I was like close to her. So it was very hard to kind of bridge that gap and try to save the marriage or the relationship or whatever, just because what was
What
important to
was
me was
what was
uncomfortable
her?
for her. And I'm not sure, I don't know that she ever took the test. Probably, I don't think words of affirmation or gifts, although she did like gifts. So probably acts of service is probably one of her top ones.
So the only thing you could have done during that last year was do a lot of acts of service
Right.
and hope.
Something changed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, looking back on my marriage, nothing. Uh, you know what? I hadn't thought about my exes. Although if I had to say, yeah, I think acts of service would have been up there. Maybe I should have rubbed his feet more. But some marriages are so broken that I think even if you were speaking each other's love language, I mean, that would have helped a lot. But if there's something underlying
Yeah.
going on, you know, because my top would also be not being abused. And so when you're being abused, it really doesn't matter. They could be you speaking all your other love languages,
Right.
but actually, come to think of it, he did not speak my love language at all. And that was one of the problems. Hmm. Thinking back in time, that
Right.
makes a lot of sense. So, Joanna, what do you think yours is?
I really like words of affirmation. So I like when people notice things about me and tell me. So, and I also like quality time. When I did the quiz, I was noticing a lot of the things that I chose were spending time with people. So,
So, sorry, Chris, go
I
ahead.
was just say a quick question. So for those of listeners, watchers that haven't read the book, where can they access the quiz and find out what their love languages are?
I believe there's a website. There's also at the back of the book is a quiz, or they tell you how to figure it out. Oh, there is an actual quiz. I didn't take it in the book because I was given an actual quiz by someone else. But yeah, there's in the back of the book they make you go through and answer a bunch of questions and figure it out from there. But I'm pretty sure if you Googled love languages, yeah, because I took an online
Okay.
quiz a while back as well.
this morning I went on, there's like a five languages, I think was the name of the website. It's their official website, and there's a whole bunch of quizzes you can take.
That does sound familiar.
Yeah,
Five
you
languages.
can decide which category you're in and take the quizzes. So,
Yeah, I recommend it because I don't think we realize those things until someone points us.
when I
points
was
out to
listening
us.
to the book, I'm like, I have no idea what my kids' languages are. I really don't know what my husband's language was. I mean, I just trying to think about it and figure it out. I was pretty clueless. So it's weird.
I know, isn't that something? It's
Yeah,
not something that I mean until someone like breaks it down for you. It's not really something that
yeah,
you think about.
Yeah, I personally have a tendency to like treat other people the same way, like through my language. I speak my love languages to them, which is not necessarily or very often what they need. So I
right.
think that is very
So
helpful.
you're a physical therapist, right?
Yeah,
So the physical part works.
right.
So are you speaking love to your clients?
In a very platonic, Christ-like
Appropriate
way.
way.
Yes, exactly. Something in a way that's not going to lose me my
Yes.
license. So,
That's
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Well, I
Uh,
mean, I think we need touch, right? Like humans need touch. So there's a lot of different ways to touch and show that without being inappropriate.
right.
yeah. Well, and that's one of the things that they were talking about in the book, especially with singles. I mean, I have kids at home, and you have small kids at home,
Hmm.
so we get touched all the time. Not always in a great way,
Right.
but we have people. We have people to hug. And especially one of my girls, her love language is physical touch. And so now, before it used to annoy me that like when she'll come up next to me in my bed when we're watching TV and like just
Right on top
put
of you.
her head right on my shoulder, like in a painful way. And now that I know that that's her love language, I just need to make sure I'm giving her lots of physical attention so that she's not feeling like she has to come in and like force it.
Right.
And so, but anyway, what I was starting out with is as singles, if we're not in a relationship, we might not be getting a lot of physical touch. And there's that song from kindergarten, 4 hugs a day. That's the minimum. You guys know
I
Nope.
don't know that one.
it's like
Apparently, a
it's like
repressed kindergarten
I guess
here.
so.
there was an article that somewhere, and I read it a long time ago. It talked about we all need a minimum of 4 hugs a day, and that 12 is actually better, much much better. And so I always think about that, and with my girls, I'm sure that they're not getting 12 hugs a day. Most people are not getting 12.
Right.
Even in a relationship, you only see someone maybe once or twice a week. You might get a
No.
lot of hugs in during that time, but it's not every day. So I don't think we all realize how much we might be in deficit in our physical touch. Because they talk about, especially older singles, like my mom, she's been divorced for a long time. She lives with my sister. I doubt that they're hugging. Just going to make a guess that they're probably not hugging. And so, if she's not, where is she getting hugs from? Or my sister that lives with her. Where is she getting? Nobody. It's just not something that frequently happens. In the church, it happens more often. We go to church on Sunday. People are more apt to hug there. But it's just not. If you're not married, it's not an
Yeah.
automatic thing that
Well, and
happens.
how often do guys get hugs at church? Because I
Um,
think girls do.
Not
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, I was gonna say rarely, right?
That's
Sometimes it's like
sad.
the bro hug, kind of.
Yeah.
maybe.
Is that like a side hug?
No, it's like starts with a sort of a handshake and then you just kind of pull them in real quick, sort of thing.
Oh, that's cute.
Tap on the back,
Yeah.
shoulder.
Whereas we women tend to get, we don't care, we just hugs, you know.
Yeah, there's a lot more opportunities.
Yeah. Even more than you want sometimes.
Well, that's a good point because like my daughter does not like people touching her, except she'll let me hug her. But like she doesn't want other people touching her.
So physical
So
touch is not her.
even at home, you know, like once a day, that was the limit for her, you know, not wanting to be touched.
Interesting.
That's weird.
Yeah. So that's not her love language.
No, not her love language.
And so that's why you have to be careful with hugs and stuff, because some
Yeah.
people, if it's not their love language, they may not be
Right.
down for that.
And I would say generally it's not mine, but I was talking to somebody else about this and like in my marriage, definitely I wanted that love language happening. And I was probably wanted it more than my husband did. So, but
That's
in
interesting.
general, I don't particularly care if people touch me or not. So,
Yeah, you know what? That's funny. And I think that's a good distinction because, like I said, before I started dating this guy, I'm like, I mean, it's nice and all.
yeah.
I mean, I definitely want my back scratched every night. But that's partly like I get pain in my back a lot. And it's just really, the back scratch is the only thing that really relaxes me to the point where it goes away. And so I like that. But even before that, when I was married, that was my one thing. Like every night, I'm like, please scratch my back. It just feels really good. But to me, it's not like a love thing. It's like it just feels good.
Right.
And so outside of those kind of relationships, yeah, I'm okay with not like touching people all the time.
Right.
So I think it depends on physical touch. A lot of times depends on the relationship.
Yeah.
So
I
I mean,
think
if you're dating someone, yeah, you're really attracted, so you want to
Right.
touch them all the time. But it's really cool to know when someone, even a coworker, because they had some really good stories in the book about people that didn't know like their coworkers' love language. Like the one lady
Yeah.
didn't like her coworker
Mm-hmm.
at all, and then she decided she needed to figure out what her love language was, and she finally did and started speaking it, and like their relationship changed,
Yeah.
like did a 180.
Yeah, I feel like you need to know their love languages for conflict resolution for things to go a lot better. I think if you have to correct someone, especially like at work, if you're a supervisor or something like that, I feel like they would take it a lot better if you knew their love language and things like that, as opposed to them being affronted or offended by, you correcting them or something like that. So
Yeah, one of the
it's a
interesting
good,
things
useful thing to know.
they talked about was you wouldn't think, I mean, you would think acts of service everybody would like, but one of the examples that they brought up where someone wouldn't like it is if they were raised to be very independent and do everything on their own, and that everybody should do everything for themselves. And so, like, if you're in a situation where someone came along and just did something for that person, they would be like, oh, didn't you think I was going to do it? Or don't you think I can do that?
Yeah.
Am I not capable?
Yeah.
And so that kind of person, if you wanted to do an act of service, like say if that was your love language, you just need to ask them first
Right.
before just doing it. I mean, that's weird to me because as a single woman, you probably face this too. There's a lot of stuff we can't do for ourselves around the house.
Right.
Or, I just don't own a bunch of tools.
Right.
And even if I did own them, I probably wouldn't know what to do with them. So acts of service is huge for me right now
Right.
because I need people to come over and do things for me. And also when you're raising kids, and if you're by yourself raising kids, and you were just there,
Mm-hmm. You need people to help.
it just gets to be too much
Yeah.
doing stuff on your own.
You do.
And so acts of service, even if it's not my top, is huge.
Yeah. But I do think, like, I think my husband was good at doing the acts of service, but sometimes I'm like, can you just tell me that I'm doing a good job? Or, like, better yet, give me a hug. I don't really care that you just did whatever, So I think it just depends on what you're looking for, what you need, or what's the top thing, right?
Right.
So
You're doing such a great job with this podcast right now.
it was helpful for me to learn that that was the way he showed love, because then I could accept what he was saying as loving, even though it was not necessarily what I wanted. I think that's the other good thing is if you understand what people are saying, what they're saying to you, like what love language they use, then you can appreciate what they're doing for you. Even if it's not your thing.
And I think that normal communication and whatever language you speak is important in the relationship as well. Like, I think it's fantastic when a woman says, this is what I want out of the relationship,
Right.
because then it makes it so much easier
Easier.
for the
Yeah.
guys. And
Yes.
because in that instance, like if, he's doing these acts of service and he doesn't feel like you're accepting them, then that's going to make him feel like he's not
Appreciated.
appreciated or that he's living up to his part of the relationship or whatever. And then,
Sure.
So
Well, and it's good.
regular communication is important too.
Yeah,
totally
well,
is.
it's great, and that leads me to the next point. It's great if we recognize what their love language is so we can appreciate it. I mean, like, the guy I'm dating right now is not that verbal as much as I would like, but he's very physical. And so I know when he's hugging me and things that he's communicating to me what I'm like wanting him to communicate to me.
Right.
But also, if we know what our love language is and we're not getting it spoken to enough, we can tell the other person. If
Yeah.
it's someone close enough to you, if someone you're dating or it's someone in your family, why not just let them know?
Yeah.
Say, hey, I thought I wanted to let you know, and I want to know what yours is. What's my love language is this? Like I told the guy I'm dating, I just realized, because I was thinking it was words of affirmation too, because he wasn't using very many of
Oh,
them.
yeah.
And I was like, I need some words of affirmation. But then when I kept reading and thinking, I'm like, no, I mean, those are great. I do too, because I love hearing. So it's almost like I have this, like, there's three that are right at the top.
Yeah.
They're really close to each other. But the top, is the most important. But right beneath that is the words of affirmation. So I can feel I'm not getting those too. And especially like with doing the podcasts and everything, I always love positive feedback from people.
Mhm.
But anyway, and so I was telling him I need words of affirmation, and he was giving me some. But then I realized it's really a conversation. And so I was able to say, you know what? I really need this. And so he was able to like he came over last night. He says, "Let me sit down and talk." I'm like, "Oh, that's so cute." He's doing
learning.
it. He's doing it because I told him. And
Yeah.
so, and it was funny because I was too tired. I didn't really feel it. But it was so awesome because if you're in a relationship with someone, whatever kind of relationship that is, and if you can tell them and they can tell you and you can start speaking each other's language, wow,
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
it's great. It's so much better.
I got really good at saying, "Don't you think I look good today?" Or, "Look what I did today. Don't you think I did a good job?" And he got good at saying, "Yes, that was really awesome."
So you were asking for it. You didn't know what it
I didn't
was,
know what I
but
was
you were
doing, but
asking
yeah,
for it.
I just got good at asking. Like, I need a hug now. You need to give me a hug. So,
And I think that's great
yeah.
because we
It
should
goes back to communication, right?
Yeah.
right. Well, and he talks about having an empty love bucket, which is useless. I mean, the concept of a love bucket for some reason. I mean, I agree with it, but it just sounds funny. I love buckets.
So explain this love bucket. I'm not familiar with the love bucket.
It's that thing that you need to keep filled in your life to be
Mhm.
happy. And so when someone's speaking your love language, it stays full.
Okay.
But if it's not being spoken enough, it starts dropping. And it's really obvious with my kids when their bucket is empty. I'm just going to say bucket because love buckets is slightly racy. But um, I can tell when my girls, like Amanda, my youngest, quality time is so obviously her bucket filler because well, I have this thing that where I try and spend 10 minutes of individual time with them every day. We always say our 10 minutes. Without fail, she's the one that will come up to me and say, let's have our 10 minutes. Let's have our 10 minutes. The other two, and but she always wants the 10 minutes. And so I know that if she's starting to misbehave, it's probably because she's not getting enough one-on-one attention from me. I mean, partly. I mean, Abby makes her crazy. But partly it's she's not getting enough attention. So I need to stop what I'm doing and probably go out on the trampoline, which is not my favorite thing, but that's her favorite thing. So I'll go out on the trampoline with her for 10 minutes. And then I can tell when Abby is, her top one is acts of service. And she loves doing things for people. And I should have figured that out, but I need to do something for her. Like if I buy something for her at the store that she asked me for, which is kind of a gift. But to me, those two are really close.
Yeah.
Because to me, a gift is awesome, but it's awesome because that person thought about me and took the time to go and find something that they knew that I liked and then gave it to me. So it's almost not as much having that thing. The thing to me is just representative of that person thought about me, took the time, and went and did it.
Right.
And so, but the other night, Abby went and filled up my water bottle for me and brought it to me in bed. We were getting ready to go to bed, and she's never done that. And she came up there with the goofiest smile on her face and gave it to me. I'm like, I thought she had put something in my water. I was like, what? I said, what? I am not going to drink this.
Yeah.
I was like, what is in this water?
Yeah.
And she wouldn't tell me, and she wouldn't tell me. I said, I don't trust it. So she took a drink of it, which I absolutely despise. They all do that. But I didn't trust her. I'm like, she must have done something. She's just got the goofiest look on her face. So finally I took it, drank it. It was fine. And then I said, what is it? She said, I did something for you and I feel good. And I was like, what? It was so out of character. But that's huge.
Yeah.
So acts of services is obviously huge for her. That's her number one love language. And so now that I know that, I need to start doing more things for her. So yeah, I thought that was so funny.
And then I'm like, okay, I need my kids to all take the quiz so that I have a better idea of what they need so I can be a better mom.
Right.
Oh,
And also when you do get into a relationship, because neither of you are dating anyone right now,
Nope.
we're going to be talking about this. I should go ahead and announce it that we're going to be doing the first ever episode on widows and widowers, and I'm so excited about that because I've never had any come on. I've been trying for a long time, and so you're going to be joining us on that, and maybe I know we have a widower as well, and maybe one other widow. We'll see. But you've been widowed for
5 years.
5 years. Have you been in many relationships since then?
None.
None?
Haven't done any dating at all.
Really? For
No.
5 years?
I know. I can't even believe it.
Wow.
But my children have been really high energy, and
Yeah.
I haven't had any time or energy to put to a relationship. So
Yeah, it does take a lot of time. I'm discovering because this is my first real
Yeah.
relationship too in 4 years. I mean, I had a short one a while back, but this is the first one that's lasted for a little while. And I'm like, this is hard work. This is not like all, I mean, it's good, but it's not
right.
all sunshine and lollipops. It's like a lot of work. But now I'm really grateful that we're doing the love language work because I think it's going to make a big difference. And so now when you guys get into a relationship, like one of the first things you can do is try and figure out what that person's love language is and then somehow let them know what yours is, if subtly or just outright. Hey,
This is what I like.
yeah.
Give it to me now.
Start figuring it out.
That's right.
Figuring out the best way to do that. But what do you guys, what do you see as your like biggest takeaway from this that um, will help you going forward, either for yourself or other like people in your life?
I think for sure, knowing, like, so with my kids, being able to learn theirs better, that way I can show love better and discipline with love better with them. They're still pretty young and I think not quite formed into their ways quite yet, so I still have a big opportunity to help them be well-developed human beings um, and then also just, I don't know. I don't think it has to be something that's super odd. Like once you know you're going to be in a somewhat serious relationship, I feel like it's okay to let
Yeah, I
that
think so.
just tell them straight up, this is
Well, like you said,
what I like, and then what do
communication.
you like, so that I can,
Yeah,
I feel like my part of the relationship is to make you as happy as I can make you. So what do I need to do to do that? So
ladies, again, you need to check Chris out. Check him out. He's on video. He's forgetting where I am. What about you, Joanna? Oh, wait, you know what? Sorry, before I get there. That was one of the things that they talked about in the book with disciplining kids, is once you know what their love language is to wrap that discipline into that love language
mhm,
so that they feel like they're being loved while they're being corrected.
right.
Because otherwise they feel resentful.
Yeah. And I try to do that anyway. So like if I have to discipline them, I'll usually tell them that I love them, when we're done or whatever.
Mhm.
But sometimes just saying that you love them isn't enough. Like knowing what will really drive that message home to them will be extremely helpful. So
Yeah, I think with if words of affirmation is your thing, that's probably pretty big. Being told that someone loves you.
But if it's not, then it just kind of goes over your head,
right.
right? Yeah.
And they
Sometimes they're
want
like,
to
well,
see
show me that you love me. Don't just say it.
exactly.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
mean, I love hearing that, but
You want to
if
see it.
if there's nothing else behind it,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, because I think back when I was a kid and my dad would discipline us, and then he would come and sit down and apologize for whatever, and it's like this doesn't really mean a lot to me. If I don't feel the love coming off of you, I'm going to resent any correction that you give me. And so that's why they need to know all the time. And I think speaking their kids' love language all the time, as much as we can.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you guys, but if I know someone loves and cares about me, I am much more likely to accept correction from
Right.
them because I know it's coming from a place that they want to help me. and not a place of they're trying to hurt me or control me or anything like that. So, and actually, it's really true. It's really true with the I teach for BYU Idaho online, and that one of the first things that, or one of the top things that the millennials want, because they actually did this whole survey to figure out what it is millennials want. And I don't remember this in college. I don't remember this being a concern for me, but their number one was they wanted to know the teacher cared about them. And I thought that, when I was in college in the late 80s, early 90s, I just wanted to have good
Pass.
material.
Pass the class.
Give me and enjoy the class and pass it. But we never really got to know our teachers. So I didn't care. But now they really care. And so I have to make sure that my students know that I care about them. And they want to know personal things about me. And so I have to make sure I'm sharing personal stories, not like ultra personal.
Sure. They want to feel like they know you.
Yeah, they need to get like a little window into who I am.
Yeah.
So what about you, Joanna? What's your big takeaway from this?
I think the biggest thing is we have better relationships when we take the time to figure out what people want, what they need, and then we try to meet those needs, right? I think that's the best way to show people you care about them, is to actually be interested in them and notice enough to see what makes them happy. And I think if nothing else, it gives you a chance to think more deliberately about what the people in your life, what makes them feel good,
I think it's taking the time to nurture and grow the relationship, because after that first month and a half whirlwind excitement of being in the relationship is over, there has to be some sort of foundation, or that's going to be it for the relationship. So,
yeah, I discovered that I actually got past the month and a half.
There you go. Congratulations.
Thanks. One of the things that and that's the other thing, is even if someone speaks your language imperfectly, as long as they're trying, to me that makes a big a big impact. And as long as they keep trying, they're eventually going to get better at it. So I see. Just do it. Just try. One of the other things that they mention in the book is that as singles, sometimes we're not getting the attention that we need, and so he says make sure that you go out and if you're not in a romantic relationship, is to go out and find friends to spend time with that are willing to speak your love language, or that naturally speak your love language. I tend to gravitate towards people that have the conversations with me. That's where the podcast, I'm sure, was born. It's so funny that I didn't know that, because I have people coming over on a regular basis and sitting down and having these conversations with me, and I'm not getting anything out of it other than being able to provide a platform for singles to talk, but the conversations, and so that's one way that I'm meeting that need when I'm not, in a relationship with someone. And so if you're out there and you're single and you're listening to this, if you identify your love language and you're not in a relationship and you don't have kids, find coworkers that speak your language, find friends that speak your language, find other people that will speak your language, either naturally or because they want to and they're trainable and they're willing to do it, so that you have that need met, and then turn around and speak their language back to them. So I think we've covered love languages pretty well. You guys have anything else you want to say about it?
The one thing I think this book was really interesting, it can really change a relationship when you make an effort. And it talks about that guy that started reaching out to his parents. He didn't have a very good relationship with parents, and he just started doing some very simple things, and how that changed the whole relationship. So I think it's worth making the effort, right? Because we all want to have better relationships.
Yeah, you're not going to make it any worse.
No.
For sure.
No.
If you figure out, especially if it's a broken relationship, and if it's a family member, because I'm glad you mentioned that, because siblings and parents, if you have those relationships that are not doing really well, even if you don't expect to be tight, you can make a huge difference just by figuring out what their love language is and speaking it, even if it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And they talked about the one where
brother.
Yeah.
Did stuff for his brother. His brother liked acts of service, so he took care of the dog and helped him with stuff around the house, and changed that whole relationship.
Right. And then there was another one. Shoot, now it kind of just left me. But I think this man kept getting into relationships with women where they would break up with him because he wasn't talking to them, and so he wasn't speaking words of affirmation, and so the author, who I think is a counselor, told him to start with his parents.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was interesting. Instead of starting with the dating, he started calling his parents or seeing his parents regularly and telling them that he loved them.
Mm-hmm.
And because he came from a family where they didn't do that.
Right.
And it took him only once or twice to get, I think his mom started reciprocating
yeah.
first, and then his dad eventually did. And they got to the point where they were always sending it to each other, and then that allowed him to move forward into doing that in dating relationships.
All right.
And so, but he said his relationship with his parents, totally changed.
That I think can make a big difference in your dating relationships if your family relationships are functioning better or as best that they can. I think it carries over to your dating
Yeah,
relationships.
it just reminded me. I don't know if either of you have watched the movie on Netflix, The Unicorn Store.
No,
You may want to see it. It's pretty good.
the unicorn
The
store?
Unicorn Store with Brie Larson and Samuel L. Jackson. So it's basically this, I don't know, 25-year-old girl, whatever, she gets kicked out of art class, and her whole life she wanted to own a unicorn and be an artist. And so her first dream was like shattered, and so then she gets this
What?
invitation to come to the unicorn store, and you can buy a unicorn, but there's certain requirements. I just thought of this because I say you're looking for your unicorn, but maybe you found it. But anyway, one of the requirements is that you have to fill your life with love, and she didn't have a good relationship with her parents, and it's kind of the same thing. So once she was able to fix that relationship with her parents and things like that, then she became worthy to buy this unicorn or whatever. So it's no spoilers. I won't tell you how it ends, but it's pretty good. But it's the same kind of idea where if you want something in your romantic relationship or you want a romantic relationship, just make sure that you're nurturing all your other relationships, because then when that opportunity finally comes around, you'll be ready for it instead
that's
of
a good
never
point.
having practiced any of those skills of,
Exactly.
being nice to people or whatever it is.
Yeah,
So,
start practicing on people
yeah,
and see what a difference that makes.
yeah.
So great. I think we've about covered it.
Yeah.
So thank you both for being on the program. This has been a lot of fun. I will link to this book on the show notes on AnnetteTalks.com. And I encourage you all, you listeners, to go out and find the book. If you haven't taken the test, go find the test and take it. I would love to have feedback either on AnnetteTalks.com or YouTube or Facebook telling me what your love language is and any experiences you've had with trying to speak someone else's love language and other ideas for upcoming topics that you want to hear about or anything else, what you think about being filmed, us videotaping it, other bad lighting in the background, all those kind of things. Anyway, you've been listening to LDS Unmarried Life. Sorry, did I say that wrong? I'm always kidding. For some reason, I'm like messing up my topic, my title of my book and my podcast. This is LDS Unmarried Life. You've been listening to, and again, you can find it on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. So, thank you for listening.